If you feel stuck in your career, wondering how you got here and where you're headed next, this episode is for you, my dears. I'm about to tell you how I accidentally manifested only my dream job, right? No big deal. And more importantly, how you are manifesting your future career right now, whether you realize it or not. I'm so excited to dive into this. Let's go. Before you roll your eyes and think, oh great, another woo-woo manifestation pep talk, this is never just about wishing on a star. It's about recognizing the pattern in your past choices and understanding how they've shaped your present situation, and then using all of that knowledge to create your next career move. And trust me, I've got stories, I've got the receipts, and even a pizza analogy that you cannot miss that's going to make you rethink everything you thought you knew about getting what you want. So grab your coffee, your tea, whatever you prefer, because today we're cracking the case on career manifestation. Okay, so I have to set the scene, flashback to about a dozen years ago, 12 years ago. I was in grad school and I had no career experience whatsoever around social work. And I was quite literally a mess, wondering how I was ever going to be able to land in my dream job when we all know in the social work career path, experience is key. And that could be even making you a little anxious as you are headed and kind of getting closer to graduation if you're in the same shoes that I am. Now, there are several of you out there that are doing it all. So you're like working in jobs similar to social work or sociology or psychology, and also going to school, getting that master's, getting your license. You're doing all the things, parenting. Y'all are amazing. I was just doing one of those things and trying to survive, and that was grad school. And I was married, no kids yet, no job experience, nothing. So it was fairly scary because comparing, right, as I'm looking to my fellow graduates, I'm like, I don't have the experience. All I have are my internships at this point. So I was just very anxious as I was getting closer and closer to graduation. And that was in May of 2009 that I graduated, if you want to put that into a little more perspective. On the other hand, right, at this time, I'm also kind of trying to put my steps together. I knew I wanted to work in school social work. I knew that was going to be a very competitive field to get into because typically, and things have changed a little bit, this is a whole nother episode, but at that time in 2010, 2009 time frame, school social work jobs were very few and far between because once a person landed within the school system, they did not budge. That work-life balance, I tell you right now, you cannot beat it. And I knew at that time that I wanted to work with kids. I knew I wanted that job that felt impactful. I knew I wanted financial stability, which is what school social work offers. And again, that work-life balance, that flexibility to have a school schedule, summers off, spring break, fall break, all the things, right? But I had no idea how I was going to get there because I basically knew I was not competitive enough. And let me tell you, my approach to career planning at that time was like throwing spaghetti at the wall and hoping that it stuck. Like, can I count my internships? Can I? And again, if you are listening in on this on like wanting career interview, resume building advice, all of those resources, you can find very tangible resources on how to interview and land the job and that kind of thing over on Social Work Scrapbook on YouTube. I will link that playlist in the description box. But regardless of it all, I felt really stuck, except in hindsight, and this took several years. This is like hindsight that I didn't know for at least 4 or 5 years. In hindsight, I was doing more than that. I was making micro choices that were beginning to shape and scaffold my reality, even when I didn't realize it. And I feel like you might be doing the same thing. So here comes my pizza analogy. Imagine you're ordering a pizza. You don't just tell the delivery guy, hey, bring me food. You're going to let them know what you want, right? You're going to order exactly what you want. So the crust type, I like a pan pizza. If I'm going to indulge, I'm going to go all in. The toppings, pepperoni, mushroom, extra cheese, whatever makes your perfect slice. No judgment. Pineapples. Some people are like, heck no, right? Manifestation works the very same way. Okay, stick with me. The universe or life, we'll just say, or your own subconscious, however you want to frame it, the universe responds to the clarity of your request. 16 years ago, I graduated, deer in the headlights, spaghetti at the wall, not knowing what I was doing or how I was going to land a school social work job since everything was so competitive. I wasn't just thinking, I need a job, I need a job. I was shaping my order, right? So I took school-based internships. I had 2 back-to-back, one with communities and schools, one with Austin ISD, and I went to school at the University of Texas at Austin, and now it's the Steve Hicks School of Social Work. And so I knew then, and that's what made my order so clear back then, was like, I knew I wanted to do schools. I had worked in elementaries. I had also worked in high schools. I hadn't done middle school yet. We'll get there. So basically, I gravitated toward mentors who worked in education as well. And I obsessed over taking jobs around children and families. So my very first job was working as a foster care counselor. This was in the state of Tennessee. And that population is very, very difficult. It is going to bring a lot of attachment issues up, and did that within myself. A lot of the work-life boundaries were very blurred. I'm going to date myself so much, but we had cell phones, but they didn't provide cell phones. They provided a business pager. And so we were a team of about 4, and once a week out of the month, we were responsible for that pager, and we took on emergencies like crazy because some children were immediately removed via emergency placement and coming into our foster care homes, and we had to set that all up. And it was a lot. It was definitely a lot. I do recall being like a month in and just literally crying my eyes out, thinking, I made the wrong choice. This is not something I can do as a forever career. I am absolutely burned out. I lasted half a year in that role as a foster care counselor, just to let you know. I really don't know how much longer I would have been able to be there, quite honestly, because it just so happened that my husband was also going to be getting out of the military. See, it was the military that took us over to Tennessee, Fort Campbell, Tennessee, Kentucky it is. It's right on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee. And he was getting out of the Army. He had served his 6 years, and we're going to go back to where we are both originally from, which is San Antonio, Texas. So we landed back in San Antonio in January of 2010. Landing in San Antonio, all my applications, I had been applying from Kentucky just to kind of set up something for us when we got into town, back to our hometown, and nothing was falling into place. I was very stressed again because now I just had 6 months of experience working for a foster care counseling, and I honestly didn't even know if that was the route I even wanted to do. So things were very scary, but I'm putting in my applications. I finally get called from a very prominent district in San Antonio, and I'll just say it. It's Northside ISD, which is a huge district. They're called the Premier District, and they're huge here in San Antonio. Anyway, it was a stipend position, so it has an asterisk, meaning that the position was going to be opened for a set amount of time, and that was a 2-year grant that was written to work with the special ed population. So it was very, very specific type of role. And so I just took it as an opportunity to learn and get my foot in the door, quite honestly. What happened there is I met the most wonderful mentor, and she had worked in school social work for 10 years, I believe, 10 plus years. She was an incredible mentor that I learned so much. I honestly felt like I was an intern again, but I didn't mind it because I knew I was gaining so much from her experience about the world of special education funding, stipends, transition programming, everything, and community organization. I learned so much there. At about a year in, I realized they were not going to renew my stipend. And so the time was ticking. Like, I started applying, right? Because at this point, I had just had my first child. He came in May of 2010. So just again, another 5 months into this role at Northside ISD. What I didn't realize then was that I was stacking my manifestation pizza. So basically right now is putting in my order for the manifestation career pizza. Remember the analogy? You might still be thinking to yourself, okay, this sounds like coincidence. One more situation I want to share with you. So yes, I kissed one more frog. It was actually one of my favorites is after I did get laid off because the stipend wasn't renewed at Northside ISD, I decided to apply myself to the clinical social work route. And if you are new to clinical social work, I'm going to link a video down below on like my steps to gaining a clinical license, because there are steps, there's hours, supervision, all the things. And I really wanted to start this journey, but have it paid for. So naturally, I'm like, if I'm going to lose this job, I'm going to try to find a job where I can start gaining clinical hours and experience and get paid for it. And a job fell into my lap in my search, and it was with Bexar County Juvenile Probation Department with a program at the Cindy Taylor Crier Center. And this center, oh my gosh, this is really where I grew my clinical social work teeth. It is an all-male, I'm not sure if it still is actually, but it at the time, 2011, it was an all-male lockdown facility for juveniles between the ages of 12 to 18 years old. And I interviewed there. I was excited because it was for a juvenile counselor position. And to get hired in this position, you do have to gain your clinical license or have it already. But in my case, I didn't have it yet. But you had to gain it within 2 years of being hired. That's the standard of usually how long it takes. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do this. I interviewed. I ended up getting the job. But I feel like that was just divine intervention, if anything, because one of the questions, as to be expected, they will typically ask you what your limitations are, right? Like what your weaknesses are. And I answered by saying that I didn't have much experience working with substance abuse and addiction. And that's just a place I would like to grow. That's always how you want to spin your limitations. After I completed the interview, they let me know, because I didn't know beforehand, I am not that crazy, that this particular position I was interviewing for was for a substance abuse unit. And I still got hired. Y'all, it might have been desperation, but I tend to reframe this and say this was my manifestation order coming through. Because a year and a half into that position, oh my gosh, I learned so much on the job. It was an amazing experience. Not one that really fits the social work lens, but nonetheless, it was pretty amazing. But a year and a half into it, my mentor over from Northside ISD gave me a call, and she let me know that Harlandale ISD was going to have a vacancy, that they were going to post for a school social worker. And she didn't know quite where or what the role was going to look like, but it was worth putting in my application and sending my resume in to try to get an interview. Now, at this point, everybody knew that this particular district on the south side of San Antonio is just progressive. They have great leadership. They have a strong social work team. It's where you want to be. So, of course, I'm like, I'm finally getting comfortable at Bexar County, and finally, like, my learning curve was finally starting to, like, plateau, and I was feeling confident. But at the same time, I knew my dream career was school social work, and this one didn't have any asterisks with a stipend or anything like that. So I knew I had to put in that application, and I did. And let me tell you, I did get called in for an interview. However, the amount of applicants that applied there, it was fierce, y'all. It was a very full waiting room. And we interviewed at one of the middle schools in the district, and I was nervous as heck. The panel was huge, in my opinion. I had the principal, 2 vice principals, the social work facilitator, which became my supervisor, and I believe I also had one of the admins, like from a district admin. Yes, I did have like the counseling district admin, and the questions, oh my God, they started coming. The great thing though is that what they were asking and what they were needing was exactly what I presented across the table. Amazing. And this is what I mean. Listen to this order. This is what they wanted. This is the position they were trying to fill, which no one could have really guessed. And believe me, I tried because I knew one of the social workers that was currently in the district. I actually grew up with her son and went to school with him and whatnot. And she was trying to tell me herself, she's like, I really don't know what this position is for. I think it's a middle school, but it also could be more. I'm not too sure. So I'm like, okay. So when I interviewed, I quickly learned that they were looking for a social worker to work at their special ed transition center, which they were modeling after the North Side school that I had just worked at. So that was a huge check. They were also looking for someone that had experience with juveniles and adolescents because they were going to place this person part-time at a middle school. Check. And then lastly, they were wanting someone that also had experience with foster care because they were hoping that the days that I wasn't at the middle school, I would be assisting with homeless and foster care youth throughout the district. Check. I don't think I mentioned it before, but of course I talked about my experience as a foster care counselor, but my internship experience. Remember that internship experience that I told you, like, I don't have any experience, just the internships. Well, my second internship with Austin ISD was with the McKinney-Vento program, which is your homeless and unaccompanied youth. I'm not sure if I mentioned that earlier because I'm recording this separately, you can tell. If you're watching me on YouTube or on Spotify, Mike Wazowski is here joining us. He smells so good. This is like my comfort little guy here. I'm such a Disney adult, sorry. That's my story as to how I literally landed this role because of all the spaces I had been. It was amazing. So I was hired, and it gets better, honestly, because I was working on that clinical license, if you can recall. And it truly is my passion to work clinically with people that are in just such high risk situations. I didn't want to give up on that career development goal. So I had let my supervisor know that I was working towards this and kind of staffed it with him, like what he thought. Turns out I was able to finish up my clinical hours there within the school system under his license because he was a board certified supervisor in Texas. And this was his last year holding that particular licensure. He was going to let it expire. So I was actually his last supervisee to get their clinical license under his supervision. And I find that such a huge honor. I've learned from him every day since. And in 2020, get this, guys, he was able to put together a care center within our school district. And by care center, I mean a mental health facility, a literal clinic within the school system that contracted with different counseling agencies and mental health centers to come in and provide mental health counseling and therapies to students, faculty, and the families living within our school district. Guess who he placed there to help co-facilitate that program? You guessed it, little me, because I had my clinical license. And by that point, I had already also earned my supervision license. So I am board certified to provide supervision in the state of Texas. So I was just blessed that he was able. I'm sorry, I think I saw a cardinal. Yes, I do. I see. Oh, God. I love these signs. I'm all about the signs. If you didn't know, red cardinals, they represent a spirit guide or loved one that's watching over you and protecting you. But yeah, so I was placed there by my supervisor in 2020. So then I became a school-based therapist, and I have been taking on cases within the district of students that are self-referred. Consent is given from the family to proceed with counseling. It's pretty much long-term counseling, eight weeks to, sometimes the whole school year. But it's beautiful to be working with students and families that are referring and wanting that mental health support and needing it as well. So it has been such a beautiful journey finding my path in the field of social work. And I wanted to share that with you because I know I'm proof of the ups and downs and the I don't knows all in between. But it's so important to trust the process. I know that there's some skepticism to it, right? Was this a coincidence? Was it creation? Now I know that some of y'all are thinking, hey, that's just cause and effect, right? You had experience. That's not manifestation. And you're right, but also you're not so right because it's almost like a GPS, right? For those of you that are a little older like me, we used to have to use GPS, which is basically like Google Maps. It's navigation. It's a navigational system that we actually had to buy it because we didn't have smartphones and all the things. It's been such a crazy ride, but I love this time because everything is just so much easier. No need for maps. Remember maps like atlases? But when you plug in an address into your phone, if you put in a vague destination, like somewhere nice, what's going to happen? You're going to end up lost. Just lost, basically. But if you enter clear coordinates and you have the address, the route is going to unfold for you, turn by turn by turn. My past choices, my internships, whoever I networked with at the time, my curiosity, the people that came into my life as mentors, they are examples of me entering in the right address into a career GPS, let's just say. I wasn't forcing it, even though I tried. I honestly did. I was like trying to control everything. And I literally had no control because this was just honestly meant to be. I couldn't force it. I was just constantly aligning myself back to what outcome I wanted, just aligning myself with the outcome, aligning whenever things would go off point. So I just fast forward to now. I want to give you just a short little update because I still don't really know, but it's getting real again for me. I'm like in another transition point, and maybe you're here as well. Like I love my school social work role. And at this point though, I'm kind of being pulled backwards a little bit because it's not like I lost the school-based therapist role, but I'm just added back into a middle school full-time, like where I started essentially in this district, which is not, I'm trying to see it not as a negative thing, but it's also not so much a positive thing because I feel like I'm being pulled backwards. Just having to split between some days doing my clinical work, some days doing my school social work, it's a lot. It's an overload. So I'm feeling that pull again, like maybe I need to align more. What are my true goals and visions for myself as a social worker and beyond, right? Like I need to put in a new order of GPS coordinates into my my brain, right? Into the universe. And right now, I'm really trying to figure out what my past choices, my past experiences now, where they can be leading me. Like what are the present routes for me, what's going to unfold. And of course, there's really no knowing until after the fact, like in retrospect, because I don't know what they're pointing me towards, but I do feel like something else is definitely on the horizon. I would be lying if I said I wasn't putting in applications here and there. I have new skills. I am developing new passions, and there's an itch to do something more expansive, bigger than myself. And I'm not too sure how this looks like quite yet, but I know I want to kind of try something different. And this is where manifestation isn't just about wishing, right? You can't just wish and hope, which believe me, I wish it was that easy. It's about recognizing the patterns of our choices and where we've been and making intentional next steps, right? Trying to align. I'm so happy you have joined me for this episode. If I lost you, I'm sorry. But if you are still here, again, you are my people. Thank you so much. If you're feeling stuck in your career or in life, start investigating, looking into these patterns of your own choices. Have you been the one making these? are they being made for you? Look at the micro decisions that you've been making throughout your lifetime so far and where they've led you. Are you stacking the right ingredients for the life that you want? Or are you sending mixed orders and getting a mess in return? It's so important to get clear. I think that's why we see so many people making vision boards and dream boards and mood boards, because they honestly provide clarity. And I don't do so much the visualization. I want to start adding that, but I do a reflection on what my true passions and goals are in life. And I do this probably about every 8 to 10 months. I'm due for one this summer coming up, and just making sure I'm aligned to the life I truly want to live. And so if you're interested in how I do that, let me know in the comments. Let me know if you resonate with this and that's something that I can walk you through my step-by-step to aligning with my goals. Because I'll be real with y'all, I don't have all the answers, but I do know one thing. When you get clear on what you want, even in the smallest ways, you start moving toward it. Sometimes unconsciously. So if you're skeptical, consider this your experiment. Again, I like to give you some homework here at the end of these. Make one small, tiny even, intentional choice that aligns with what you actually want and see where it leads. That is going to be all for me for today. If this resonated with you, again, let's chat about it. DM me, message me, comment your thoughts, and if you want more of these deep dive episodes, let me know. Until next time, keep true to yourself and your path, and remember, your future is being written with the choices that you make today. So make them great. New episodes of Part of the Case air every week on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.